Coming on the air with breaking news about Bill Cosby. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has overturned the 83-year-old actor's sex assault conviction, and he could be released from prison within hours. Cosby served more than 2 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence, convicted of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constant. Ron Allen has been covering this case from the very beginning. Ron, why was the conviction vacated?
Throughout this entire process, Cosby had complained that the other accusers, other than Andrea Constant, were allowed to testify at his trial. You remember the first trial ended in a deadlocked hung jury. One woman was allowed to testify. In the second trial, there were 5 other so-called prior bad acts that were explored by the prosecutors. 5 other women who had accused him of similar sexual assault. The prosecutors justified this by saying that they were trying to show that there was a pattern, that he had treated women the same way, that he essentially had befriended or become a mentor for some young performers and then started seeing them. And then at some point, this became a romantic relationship, and that he allegedly drugged them and sexually assaulted them in some way. The Supreme Court is now saying that that's unfair, essentially, to have these other witnesses testify. This is central to many cases that have been part of the Me Too movement. The Harvey Weinstein case, there were 4 other women who were allowed to testify in his case as well. So while this pertains to only the case of Bill Cosby in Pennsylvania, it could have far-reaching implications, because the basic principle here that Cosby argued, and apparently successfully, before the Supreme Court, is that he should have been tried only based on what happened in the Andrea Constance matter that was before the court, that the jury could not and should not have heard other testimony from other women about other things that he had done. There was also a deposition that had been sealed as a result of a civil suit that Constance had brought against Cosby. The judge in the criminal case against Cosby allowed that deposition to be unsealed, even though there was an agreement, Cosby maintained, with the prior prosecutor that it would remain confidential and secret. So basically, Cosby's argument throughout this whole thing has been he wasn't treated fairly, that he was that other witnesses were allowed to testify that didn't pertain to this particular case. And it appears, I'm still reading through the decision, through the opinions, but it appears the Supreme Court agreed with that basic principle.
All right, Ron Allen, thank you. I want to turn now to NBC legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, does this open the door for a retrial, or what potentially happens now?
It does. I'm still poring over this opinion, Lester. It's multiple pages, and getting through it, and I'm seeing that the court didn't even address the 404B issue, which is the witnesses, the prior bad acts witnesses. But it appears that the Commonwealth, and that's the state of Pennsylvania, would be able to try Cosby again if they so elected. So this is a massive win. I can tell you, of handling many appeals in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that they are not easy to win, that this is a very rare event to have your entire conviction vacated like this or overturned. And so it'll be interesting to see what strategically the Commonwealth does going forward.
There was also some questions at the beginning of this case about prior agreements with the prior DA. Did that come into play here?
It did. It is something that is discussed. I haven't read the court's specific ruling on it, but it appears that that is one of the bases on appeal. And essentially the argument was that it appears that Bruce Castor, the prior DA, made some kind of unofficial deal where allegedly that Cosby would agree to take a deposition and possibly get a civil settlement for one of the victims. And in exchange, at least Cosby argued, there would be no prosecution. Whether or not or how much of that is true, I'm not entirely sure, but that was a main basis for appeal, essentially that Cosby was already essentially immune because of an agreement, allegedly, with the prior prosecutor.